Hi everyone, Przemek here. It's been exactly 5 days since the Advent of Code edition 2022 has launched, and in today's episode I'd like to tell you more about this contest, and also I'd like to show you how to solve selected challenges by using the ChatGPT artificial intelligence model. Let's get started. On the very beginning, I think it's really important to recognize one person that made it possible for me to record such a video, and this person is no one else but the Eric Wassel itself. So he is the author of the Advent of Code, and he's the person who basically had this concept of creating this Advent calendar of, as he's saying on the landing page, of small programming puzzles for a variety of skill sets and skill levels that can be solved in any programming language you like. Right now I have a pretty good understanding of how this Advent of Code works, and I'm also able to apply some different techniques to solve those challenges that are already done by me. So first, to give you a good understanding of how all of this works, let me show you one example of such a challenge. We are on the 4th day. The challenge is called Camp Cleanup, and what is the problem? Let me take a very quick read of this challenge. So space needs to be cleared before the last supplies can be unloaded from the ships, and so several elves have been assigned the job of cleaning up sections of the camp. Every section has a unique ID number, and each elf is assigned a range of section IDs. However, as some of the elves compare their section assignments with each other, they've noticed that many of the assignments overlap. To try to quickly find overlaps and reduce duplicated effort, the elves pair up and make a big list of the section assignments for each pair, your puzzle input. Okay, so basically the idea is that we are getting access to a text file that will be reflecting all the assignments for the elves that are somehow involved in this initiative. So this text file contains the following content. Every single line contains a pair of assignments, and as you see here, the first line represents two groups. So within the first pair of elves, the first elf was assigned to sections 2 to 4, and this is this part, while the second elf was assigned to sections 6 to 8, and this is this part, and so on and so forth. In the second pair were each assigned 2 sections. The elves in the third pair were each assigned 3 sections. One got section 5, 6, 7, while the other also got 7 plus 8 plus 9. Okay, so what is the challenge? Basically the challenge is to find and count all the assignment pairs where one does fully contain the other, where one range fully contain the other. And this is the expected answer. The expected answer is well known because I already completed the puzzle, so I implemented this change. We can go to the IDE. I can show you how I approach this problem, and then we can see if artificial intelligence can handle the same challenge. Okay, so basically the Node.js is the environment that I picked. It is a pretty simple piece of code. The focus was not on the code quality, but I think you will have a good understanding of how it works within a minute from now. So basically, starting from the top, we are importing 2 modules. We are importing file system and also path to read the file. The file is included here, and there is a pretty long text file containing 1000 lines of text. And then we are creating an array of assignments, and we are doing that by using the function split, and the split character is a new line, and we start summing all the assignments where one fully contains the other. So we have assignments, we are iterating over each and every pair, and we are doing the following logic. So basically, first we need to split by a comma to get the first range and the second range, and twice we are doing the same task. So we need the lower bound and we need the upper bound of the first range, and we need the lower bound and we need the upper bound of the second range. How we are achieving that? Well, we are taking the first range as a text, we are splitting this by a dash, and we are mapping it to the numerical values by using the function parseInt. Okay, now we need to check which one is a larger one, because this is the one that should fully contain the other. So we have the first range, and the first range length is actually the first max minus first min, so the upper bound minus the lower bound, and second range is also upper bound minus the lower bound, but in this case for the second range. Okay, so right now, knowing which one is the larger one, we can consider these two separate scenarios in a slightly different way. So if the first one is greater than the second one, we need to double check if the first lower bound is actually less or equal to the second lower bound, and also to meet the criteria, we need to make sure that the upper bound from the first range is greater or equal to the upper bound from the second range. Otherwise, we need to do the opposite. If the second range is actually greater than the first one, we are checking if the second one is less or equal to the second lower bound, to the first lower bound, and in addition to that, we need to check the second upper bound whether or not it is greater or equal to the first upper bound. In both cases, if the answer is yes, we are increasing the counter, the overlap, and we can see what is the expected value. So let me execute this code, and as you see, it returns the value 433, and this is exactly the value that is expected by the advent of code. So right now it's time to use the ChatGPT, the newly released AI model made by OpenAI, to see if we can basically tell this model to solve this for us. We have the landing page of ChatGPT, we have the entry page, and what would be the best way of translating those requirements into the let's say a set of rules or set of requirements that this ChatGPT would understand? Well, the whole point behind this tool is to not use any artificial languages and just to speak as you'd speak to a different human being. So let's take this exercise and let's think about the best way of explaining what needs to be done without spending too much time on kind of simplifying the requirements or maybe using some very generic statements. Let's pretend we are speaking with a colleague or a team member. So basically the whole point behind this exercise is to take this list, let me use it here, and say that it will be the list of assignments that the ChatGPT needs to handle. Okay, so imagine that you are working with the following text file where every line represents a pair of assignments separated by a comma. Okay, so imagine that you are working with the following text file where every line represents a pair of assignments separated by a comma. Okay, so this is the entry. Scan this file and count the number of lines where one of the assignments would fully cover another. Let me check if this is the right way of kind of expressing that. In how many assignment pairs does one range fully contain the other? Yeah, well, another, the other. I think this is the same. Implement the solution in JavaScript. Okay, and now there's this moment of holding tight. Let's see if the ChatGPT is able to solve this problem. Here's one possible solution in JavaScript. So, okay, what do we have here? Function, count overlapping pairs, lines, initialize the count to 0. Okay, we have the counter. Split each line into pairs and parse the assignment. So pairs, lines, split, loop through each pair of assignments, so we have two pairs, or check if one assignment fully covers the other, increment the count if one fully covers the other, and return the total count. Okay, looks impressive, a bit more concise than what I wrote, so we can see if it actually works. So let me comment this part. Okay, this is not what I wanted to copy and paste. I wanted to copy and paste only this fragment. Okay, so we pasted the fragment. We have count overlapping pairs. Okay, and we have assignments, right? So let me check that. Okay, I think that should be everything that is needed to solve this challenge. We can clean up this part. Okay, so we have assignments. This array contains separate lines from the file, and we are passing this value to the function count overlapping pairs. And what we are doing here, so we have lines, and we are mapping those lines into the following. Okay, so we have two maps. I'm really curious to see if this is going to work, but let me execute this code. Well, exactly the same value. Exactly the same value. Yeah, I have no words for what just happened. Basically, AI solved the task for me. So I described what needs to be done, and the AI solved that for me. Let me actually check the data structure that it created, because it is really interesting. I think this is the most important part, because this one is pretty simple, but the data structure it suggested is really interesting. So let me see. Okay, basically, okay, so there's an array of arrays where each array contains two items. So the first item is an object representation of the first range, the second item is an object representation of the second range, and knowing that you have nice representation of the text files, you can start applying those results. Mind blown. I was playing with the tool recently, basically trying to break it in this way or another, but in most of the cases I was unable to do so. In most of the cases the tool was returning me a proper result, and I was able to solve those challenges from the advent of code, and it really made me thinking about the future. The future may be quite different than what we currently know and what we currently consider as a standard in the world of software engineering. What especially blew my mind is the quality of the dialogue that I can kind of continue in this tool. Basically, I'm not forced to apply any different kind of structures or forms or words or statements that I would normally do when speaking with a human being. I can just explain what needs to be done, and this model of AI interprets everything and results the result. And what you see here is just the very beginning, because you can continue the dialogue, and you can, for example, say something like this: convert this implementation into Python. Okay, let's see how it works. Because of the fact that this is a dialogue, it remembers previous results. So right now it converts the implementation to Python, and you can basically compare these two. Yeah, it is amazing. It is amazing. I have no words for what the team behind this tool created. Please convert it to Swift. I have no words for what the team created. I think the future will be really different to what we know and what we consider. As I said, I'm repeating myself, but it really blew my mind. I'm chatting about it with my friends, with my colleagues, also working in the IT industry, and we really start thinking about the future of our industry, of the jobs, of the work we are doing on a regular basis. Because if this is the quality of the AI as of today, in December 2022, it's not that difficult to imagine where we will be next year. But okay, before that happens, I hope it was interesting episode. Please let me know if you are aware of this tool. If that was an interesting episode for you, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to this channel, and write in the comments section what is your feedback about this tool. Stay tuned for more. Enjoy!